Hey there, boys, girls, and flying squirrels. My name's Joe Keyport, and you're listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. This week on the Ear Coffee Podcast, I wanted to try something a little different. Instead of the usual interviews or sit-downs between Wes and I wanted to try and review an album. I write a column called In Pursuit of Something Interesting for the Ear Coffee blog, where it takes the spirit of crate digging and puts it in a format where instead of just weird records at your record store, it's something we can all find, which is like Bandcamp or Spotify. This week, the column looked at an album by the band Tongue Party. I've stumbled across Tongue Party a handful of times, but I never really listened to them. I put them on that list all music fans have but never get to. Fast forward to Sunday night, The Current, a radio station in Minnesota, had their local show going, and they played the song This Exists from this album. And I loved this sound of stoner rock mixed with punk and thrash, and I stopped before I lost the radio station's reception. The next morning, I was at work, and I was listening to this podcast called Pod Minutes to Cast Night. It's from the writer's room of this TV show called 2 Minutes to Late Night, and one of the guest hosts mentioned that they were going to be playing a show with this band Tongue Party later in the week, and I knew I had to take a look at this band. Upon first listen, Tongue Party's debut record, Looking for a Painful Death, sounds like a musical cousin to the first two Metz records, but that comparison is lazy and kind of a huge disservice to the band. The album's opening track really grabs the listener, but it's the second track, Service Please, that seals the deal for me. Instead of me trying to describe the track, here's a clip. If that doesn't paint a vivid picture of working in the service industry, I really don't know what will. As a former barista, I can identify with this song on multiple levels. Plus, the groove of this riff makes even the most uptight concert goer want to mosh. I find that I almost have to focus in order not to throw myself around the office or slam into the dude in front of me in the checkout line when I'm listening to this on headphones. Tongue Party doesn't just stick to playing fast. Service Please may be one of their more mid-tempo tracks, but it's not where they draw the line. There are tracks like Is It Really That Good that feel more like stoner metal. The riff is sludgy, slow, and slippery. It has the feel of Black Sabbath on amphetamines. If you took Sabbath's Sweet Leaf on YouTube and played it at 1.5 speed, you'd kind of get the same feel. Looking for a Painful Death would not hit as hard as it does if it wasn't for the band's overall sound. It would be easy to tune the instruments down low, throw a bunch of fuzzy distortion on everything, overcompress the drums for some punch, and their sound would still work. Listening to this record, you can hear the care taken for the instruments on how they're layered and blended. The drum's punch is mixed with the metallic clang of the bass to drive most of this record. There's a definition in the bass that makes it a lead instrument of sorts. The guitar tone on this record is a slurry of fuzzed out bass frequencies that fill and thicken. It gives it width and weight behind the punch that the rhythm section brings. Another thing I really liked on this record was how the vocals were treated. Often on noise punk and records like this, vocal performances are treated like a texture and often buried in the mix. Taking the self-titled debut from Metz as an example, I'm not sure I can quote a single lyric from that album because the vocals are buried and just soaked in effects. Tongue Party puts their vocals front and center, and the way they mix these double-tracked vocals in a wide stereo field makes it feel like the lead singer is on either side of your head, screaming into your ears. This band does not stop to take a breather once they get going. This is both a blessing and a curse on Looking for a Painful Death. The non-stop energy can get tiring at times, and if you listen to a lot of music like this back-to-back, it can all start to blend together. The band does mix down-tempo sections into their songs. Is It Really That Good has a simplistic intro, and Shit Dead features minimalistic verse sections that provide a rest before blasting back into frantic riffs. I would have liked to see a little more differentiation just so my ears and brain wouldn't tire as quickly. It should be said though that when I did come back to this record with fresh ears, it really wasn't that much of a problem. Overall, Tongue Party's Looking for a Painful Death is a fantastic debut record, and I can't wait to hear what they have next as their sound continues to expand and diversify. You can buy their entire discography on Bandcamp, and they have this great deal where you can get everything they've put out digitally at a discount. I highly recommend going and getting this band's music after you're done listening to this podcast. This podcast is part of the Ear Coffee blog that you can find at earcoffee.blogspot.com. There you can find a written review with links to everything mentioned in this episode. Ear Coffee is also on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Ear Coffee. You can find me, Joe Keyport, on Twitter at Joe Keyport. Next week, there will be another interview up on Wednesday, so make sure to come and check that out. I thank you for sitting and listening to this new content here on the Ear Coffee Podcast. I have been Joe Keyport. This has been the Ear Coffee Podcast, and I will see you next time.